Hey there, Fastus here, the second attempt at doing a first guide on Suriyun's MMORPG Kit. It kind of sounded like I needed medication the first time I tried this, so with a bit of help from Cal, I'm going to redo the guide. We're going to look at folders, some basic initial setup, the resource databases, and how to get the kit working well with constant updates. Now, most of what we look at here is due to the fact that Suriyun updates the kit quite often. So we're going to want to update the base kit code without destroying any work we've done. Now, important aspects of that is in the Unity multiplayer ARPG folder, which the kit installs, is we will never want to change any of the files within that folder. On a regular basis, these files will be changed during updates, and in fact the way I'm suggesting you do it is you'll be deleting that folder on a regular basis. Now, I've set up two Unity projects, which you can see here side by side. Now, the first Unity project contains the kit, and you will access that by going to the project manager or GitHub, downloading and importing the latest version of the kit, and that is all it will contain. You will never write any code in this project. It will just contain a pristine version of the latest version of the kit. When you update this, we will delete that Unity multiplayer ARPG folder, which I won't do now because it takes too long, and then do an update and then import or a GitHub update to get a complete, fresh, clean copy of that kit folder. In your second project, which actually contains your game and the Unity multiplayer project, we will never use Project Manager, and although some people do, I don't use GitHub for this. When we want to do an update, we delete that folder again, and then you can drag the project folder from the clean latest project into your new game folder, which I'm not going to do again because it takes ages. You could also do this from Explorer, which is probably a little bit faster than doing it in Unity itself. And the basic benefits of this are that you will always have a perfect clean kit folder in your game, and if there are any issues in your game, if you notice some bugs that you think might be a bug in the kit, you can go back to the demo folder and run the demo and just try and do the same sort of thing that your game's got a problem with, just to ensure that it's not a new bug, that the kit is included. It's also useful if you've got things like you've having problems creating a new entity or something along those lines. You can go back to a nice clean kit folder and just have a look how they've done it there. You will know that you haven't made any changes to that, and you can see, oh, okay, I've got the wrong property set up or something along those lines. But yes, we copy it across. In your game folder, we never use the actual update. The update does various things with project settings, build settings, and it could blow out some settings here that you've made changes for, which will take you a little while to find out. But we also make sure we never make any changes in the Unity folder, which brings us on to folder structures. Now, if we're looking at our game, for the structures, I have essentially attempted to duplicate the folder structure when I do mine, duplicate the folder structure used in the kit. So things like game data, resources, ammo types, armor types, all that sort of stuff. Now, the reasoning behind that for me is I find it difficult to remember where all the stuff is, and if I know in my game that I'm using things like ammo types and I know it belongs in a resources, game data, ammo types folder, I know I can go to the demo and then find the same entity types here. I've got one slight difference here. You'll notice I've got prefabs, gameplay, things like character entities, and the resources, which is not where it is in the kit. I'll explain that a little bit later. Now, assuming we've got your game in a similar folder structure to the kit, when you want to start using things, it's often a good idea, or often I will just use the existing kit demos as a template. Now, a couple of ways to do this. Of course, you could just drag it straight out of the kit and into your own folder structure. That ensures, Unity ensures that the link is not broken, so that the demo will still work. The arrow will be in your own ammo types. You can then change that arrow entity to your heart's content, and the demo will still run using that arrow. And it's a really good idea to do that initially when you're learning how to use the kit. But probably the better way of doing it is Control D, duplicate, drag the duplicate across, and just rename it to, we'll call it a fast arrow type, because we'll have a fast and a slow arrow. And now you know, I mean, this here is sacrosanct. It will not be deleted when you delete the kit for any updates, and you can make whatever changes you want. Call it a fast arrow up there. But of course this won't work out of the box with the demo, so if you're still using the demo to test things, this exhaust now won't exist. So the other two, when we're initially starting, do we have a scenes? We'll put it into my game, create folder scenes. The other on initial creation is you really are going to need an init scene, home scene, and then a map. Now the inits and the homes, I will often literally just drag and drop those into that scene. That ensures the links, especially up here in build settings. Of course it hasn't actually added any scenes, but anyway, the links in the build settings are will stay the same, so the game will still work. And although you could recreate these scenes yourself or duplicate them, they're really, they're pretty basic. This will never really change, so I just use the ones that come with the demo. Now once we've got our scenes sitting over here, the other thing we're going to need to look at is, now because I've just dragged this one across, this is still all pointing to the demo items. Now a good work in progress, or a good way of doing this is, let's say we're going to look at NPC database. So we'll duplicate, Control D, duplicate our NPC database. That's just in the root folder of game data. We'll put that into our own folder of game data, and I prefix these sort of I don't know what you would call them, database entities anyway, from the kit with my own game name, so that when we replace the kit demo one with mine, at a glance we can look through all of these and ensure that, see that, I mean, I haven't changed Warp Portal, I haven't changed Social System, but my game database I have changed. So I know that if I do an update of the demo, this other stuff's going to get blown away, but any of my changes in this won't be. And it's sort of nice to have a duplicate of this, because if you create this from scratch, which you can do, I mean, you can create a game object, game instance, etc. This will all be unpopulated, and nothing will work until you populate every single one of these things correctly, and there's quite a lot of it. I think I prefer to start with basically this default. And now the last thing we'll look at is this one here. So in your init scene you'll see there's a game database. Now the game database contains a pointer of all of the various scriptable entities, items, attributes, player characters, monster entities. Now whenever you add a new item to the game, you need to add in, 52 needs to be increased to 53. Make sure you don't have 552, and then this new item needs to be added in at the bottom down here, otherwise the game won't be able to find it. This is a slight pain. If you've duplicated like I've done here, you'll have a lot of stuff that you probably won't want. If you want to remove meat, now you've got a gap. You can't have a gap. I can't get rid of element 15. I can change it, but I can't delete element 15, or I'll have an empty element here. So while it's nice, yes, I've got all my defaults, things are working, and I can change them piecemeal, it's a pain in development to sort of be, especially when your items could have hundreds of items. So the kit offers another option. So if we right click create game database, you'll see something called resource folder database. My game resource folder database. Now that is a replacement for game database. It can be put anywhere you want. It doesn't need to be in any folder in particular, and all you do then is drag it in and replace the game database. What that does, this is a bit of help from Cal, instead of having a game database list of objects and entities, this tells the kit to look in every single resource folder in your project, so not the one that it's the parent of, all of them in the project, and to find entities that the kit recognizes, attributes, items, armor, character entities, etc., etc. This is much nicer. So ammo type, now immediately this fast arrow will exist. Although it's not added to any sort of game database, it's in a resource folder. When the game starts, the kit will search this resource folder, it'll search the demo resource folder, game data resource, it'll search all of that in there. It'll also search the resources in demo survival, demo 2, demo, all of them. It'll search all of them for all of these items, and it will add them to the list of things that the kit recognizes. If I say that I want a slow arrow, I just duplicate that. Badly spelt slow arrow. But that now, despite the fact that I haven't gone to a game database to add it in, it is now immediately part of the kit. The kit will recognize slow arrow, it'll recognize fast arrow. So it is a much faster way of adding it. Now there's a few important riders to this. So if we go to our game instance, by default, if there is nothing in the game database, on startup the game will create a resource folder game database and pass every single resource folder in it. So you don't really need to create this file. Just delete the game database from here and it will automatically generate it on start. I don't know if there's any benefit one way or the other, but that's what it does. Second part is it will pass every single resource folder in the game. Quite often if you've used other add-ons, or in the project, if you've used other add-ons, they'll also have the resource folders. It will pass all of those. It probably won't find anything, but it will pass them. The other thing to consider is Unity says resource folder bad. Don't do it. Mainly because on game startup the game loads everything in every single resource folder into memory, rather than streaming it on demand or using a whole lot of other fancy mechanisms. It depends on how you're doing. The things like ammo type, this stuff's all very small, and in theory, certainly in a multiplayer game, you kind of want them all loaded on start. If your character is sitting there and there's a bunch of other characters in the map with a bunch of other items, you kind of need to know that they've got those items. You can't be suddenly streaming things in and out. Depends a lot on game design, but yes, it's not a terrible thing. But be aware of the fact that Unity doesn't recommend it in the final games. Now, of course, you could do this on development, and then when you finally decide to release your game, just create a proper game database, go through all your resource folder, actually stuff everything into the game database finally, and then just use that. So that would help a lot, and then make sure you rename everything resources to something else. The other aspect to be aware of is if you decide to try this out in the demo, it won't work, because the demo game database, if we look at it, has got game data, currencies, items, that's all fine. All of these things live in a resource folder. The player character entity, the monster character entity, and the vehicle entities do not live in a resource folder. By default, they live in a folder called Prefabs Gameplay. This is why in my game project I've actually put that prefabs under a resource folder. In the kit it's one structure up, which means because they're not in a resource folder, on start none of these things will be found, and you won't be able to find any player character entities, and there won't be any characters to create. So it just doesn't work. They're the demo doesn't work. All you'd need to do is, I mean, you can even just rename that to resources and then everything works. So that's the few things to be aware of with the resource folders. Much easier for development, but it comes with some riders. So that's about it. I'm not going to ask you to like and subscribe. There's 2-year-olds out there these days that think like and subscribe mean good night. I love you, Mum. I think we all know what those things mean. I will say, if you've got any further questions for tutorials or guides or any pointers about what I've done wrong in this one, let me know in the comments and I will see what I can do. Have a good one. Cheers.